So I want to start with the XAI acquisition. What did you think of it?
We expected it, to be honest with you. I was surprised when SpaceX first announced that they were going public, and they hadn't already announced that they were going to merge. And a little strange timeline there that they announced the merger 2 weeks after or a couple of weeks after they announced that the SpaceX was going public. But we did expect it. It does make sense. The synergies there, and it was not something that kind of shocked us.
What synergies do you see?
Well, putting data centers in space, if Elon Musk can pull this off, will be he won't be the only one doing it because of the efficiencies and cooling and energy from the solar is so substantial that after you offset the cost of putting these satellites up into space, they become extremely efficient. So I think you'll see many other companies follow suit. So.
Now, we've had folks on the show here talking a little bit though about how SpaceX, as a business, it's increasingly operatingly efficiently. I can't remember the exact financials here, but I mean the narrative really is that XAI is losing money hand over fist, and you're adding that to an asset that was very much en route to generating a lot of cash in the long run. I mean, why does it make sense to you? And by the way, not to mention, I mean, we have XAI. You've got 5 or 6 of the co-founders who have left the company, and there's a ton of turnover. Does that not concern you?
Yeah, I mean, look, XAI was burning about $1 billion a month in cash, and I do think that that's one of the reasons why Elon decided to move it into SpaceX, because I think it'll be easier for him to raise capital, for XAI when it's part of SpaceX. And SpaceX was cash flow positive we believe, from what we hear. Obviously, we can't look under the hood, but we're hearing about 9 to 10 billion annually. So, you take a company that's burning about 12 billion in cash, you move into a company that was actually generating almost that much in free cash flow. So, but look, all these AI companies are in the beginning are burning substantial capital, and XAI was behind the curve a bit, as far as, when you compare them to Chat or Anthropic. So, in the beginning, you're burning a lot of capital, and, when you do, if your revenue, leapfrogs, next year and the year after that, that burn will come down dramatically. So I think Elon's betting on that, and I think that he felt that if he stayed private, access to that capital would be extremely difficult for them, especially since they're so far behind the curve.
I mean, I just look, if I was a SpaceX investor, I would have thought that SpaceX going public alone, SpaceX staying, just SpaceX, not SpaceX AI.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would have been a better business, no?
Well, look, we have positions in both in my fund, so we have positions in SpaceX
So to you, it doesn't really matter.
and look, what, they put a valuation of over $200 billion extra dollars on it by putting them together. So to me, obviously, the synergies, if that is true, and the company really is truly valued now at 1.25 trillion, it does, obviously it's a bump up that valuation for our LPs. So we're happy about that. We'll see how it plays out in the IPO. I'm talking about the IPO that they're anticipating the combined companies to be about 1.5 trillion. You have Starlink in there that obviously is generating a lot of cash. And, I do think that, look, like I said, if anyone could pull off putting data centers into space, it's going to be Elon. If that happens and he does it and he can do it efficiently, it's a game changer.
Walk me through the math in your mind of how SpaceX is going to be able to get 1 million satellites in space. We've had some analysts on the show talking about how big a lift that's going to be. And I think the number that he gave us is that there's only something like 25,000 satellites floating around the planet right now. So, I mean, I'm sure you've done some numbers in the background here. How do you get to 1 million in space?
Well, there's going to be a lot of other third party providers that'll be not just SpaceX putting satellites up in space and sending their own rockets up. There's going to be a surge of other public companies. By the way, I think you'll see a bunch of other IPOs of private companies right now.
But I mean, SpaceX has applied itself with the FCC to put 1 million of its own satellites in space.
Yes. Yeah, it'll be their satellites, but they don't have to. They don't have to put them up themselves. They can they could outsource that to other. Rocket Labs is putting up satellites for Blue Origin, for example, for Leo. So I do think that I think there's going to be many rockets going up, and it'll be a daily occurrence.
Okay. And so you don't actually think SpaceX is going to own the entire stack of getting all these rockets to space? I mean, they have a stack, but
You
they're not going to get.
contract them out, or if they own, if there's a rev share there or not. I'm not quite sure how they're going to work that out, but I do think that there's going to be a lot of rockets going up on a daily basis to get to that number. I mean, I think right now, I think SpaceX has about 9,600 satellites in orbit. Blue Origin, for example, Leo only has about 190. They just got the approval for another 3,000 or so that I think they're going to be putting up in the next year.
Right. Great. Well, Joseph, I want to thank you for coming on. That is Joseph Alagna from Buttonwood Funds here on TITV.